Whether you're just stepping into a leadership position or you've been managing teams for years, it is so incredibly easy to get totally swept up in the daily grind. You're answering emails, you're constantly putting out fires, running from meeting to meeting. And sometimes you just have to stop and think, wait, am I actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Well, today we're going to fix that feeling of being completely lost. We're going to build your strategic compass. In this explainer, we'll distill the exact components you need to chart your course and lead with absolute clarity.
Okay, let's dive into this. What is my role as a manager? It sounds like such a basic question, right? But honestly, it's one of the most daunting things a professional can face. Answering this accurately is literally the single most critical factor in your success. Without a clear answer, everything else you do is just guesswork. The research we're breaking down today points to one undeniable fact. Actually knowing your role sits right at the very top of the list when it comes to succeeding in your mission.
To find our coordinates, we're going to use this roadmap as our compass. We'll be quickly looking at the manager's role, your place in the organizational chart, the strategic vision and objectives, your impact on the product, and finally, how to truly succeed in your mission.
So, starting with part 1, the manager's role, the absolute foundation of your mission.
The absolute key to success here is knowing and defining your role. Seriously, it's the ultimate cure for managerial confusion. Out of all your daily tasks, your spreadsheets, your one-on-ones, understanding this fundamental baseline is an absolute prerequisite. So let's define that right now by breaking it down into actionable coordinates.
Let's move to part 2 and see how this builds. Your place in the organizational chart. Mapping out your network. Look, your organizational chart isn't just some boring, dusty corporate diagram filled with boxes and lines. It's actually your very first physical coordinate. It dictates exactly how you interact with everyone else in the building. Knowing exactly where your position sits within the company tells you who's above you, who's right beside you, and who is looking up to you for guidance. It completely grounds your day-to-day life in the reality of the business ecosystem.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it visually breaks down your cross-functional relationships. On one side, you've got your internal clients. These are the people or departments inside the company who rely heavily on the output of your work. And on the flip side, you have your internal suppliers, the colleagues whose work you absolutely rely on to get your own job done. You're basically illustrating a dynamic flow here. You are simultaneously a provider and a receiver in your organization's internal supply chain. Getting a grip on this dual relationship, it instantly clarifies what you need to be doing every single day.
Zooming out a bit, part 3. Strategic vision and objectives. Going from the macro to the micro. This requires a really brilliant top-down flow of information. Step 1, you absolutely have to know the strategic vision of the company. Like, where is this giant ship actually steering? Then step 2 is where the magic really happens. You take that grand strategic blueprint and translate it into specific objectives that concern you. This is exactly how you bridge the gap between the CEO's grand vision and your random Tuesday morning to-do list. If your company wants to be the most customer-centric brand out there, how does your specific team make that a reality today? That translation is your job.
Bringing it back down to earth. Part 4, the impact on the product, the tangible reality of your work. Your impact equals the finished service or product. Let that sink in for a second. There is a direct, undeniable link between your daily managerial tasks and the final deliverable your company hands over to the outside world. A successful manager explicitly knows how their day-to-day work shapes that end result. Because you aren't just managing people, you're managing the creation of real value.
But of course, accomplishing that final service or product requires people, right? It demands a crystal clear understanding of responsibilities. You have to know exactly what is asked of you as an individual and exactly what is asked of your team as a whole. Because if you don't know what's required to deliver the company's service, you literally cannot guide your crew properly. You have to define these expectations out loud so there is absolutely zero ambiguity.
Which brings us to part 5, succeeding in your mission. It's time to assemble the puzzle. And this brilliantly illustrates how it all comes together. Once you've gathered all these pieces, your network, your vision, your impact, you are finally fully empowered to define your role and contribute effectively. You're not guessing anymore. You are operating with total strategic clarity to succeed in your mission. So, the crucial point is this. Never forget what you must achieve and why your employer hired you in the first place. That idea completely grounds you in your foundational purpose. If you just strip away the noise, all those endless emails, the minor office politics, at the end of the day, your employer brought you on board to solve specific problems and hit specific goals. Let that be the true north on your managerial compass.
So here is the big question. How will you redefine your role tomorrow? You got the map now. You know how to locate yourself in the org chart, how to connect with the macro vision, and how to measure your impact on the final product. As we wrap up this explainer, my challenge to you is to take this framework and actually apply it tomorrow. Go into work, sit down, and draw out your map. Because leading with absolute purpose, it starts right there.